campaign's most recent shakeup, the polls that show his dad trailing Hillary Clinton in many states, the union vote, and whether there is some chunk of voters out there that somehow isn't being represented in the polling. Take a look. As you see the campaign where it is right now, I mean, are you happy with it?
I'm very happy with it, Andrew. I mean, if you look at the trends, if you look at where the trends are going, where the numbers are going in the last few weeks, I think it's been steadily on the rise. I think
the new management you like.
I love them. I think the new management's doing great. And again, I think you're going to see a lot of non-traditional, voters coming out and voting for my father. If you look at, the hardworking union labor of this country that's, always being told by their bosses to vote Democrat, those guys aren't going into a booth and pulling a...
Right, because a lot of the leadership of unions are going for...
Well, the leadership, because the leadership's been bought and paid for like the rest of,
But you believe rank and file is going to come through.
The rank and file is going to, they get it. I think if there's one thing that my father's been able to do in this election is, expose just that, the ridiculousness and the fraud at the top. In the elite, frankly, on both sides.
So the polls that are showing your dad trailing Hillary Clinton, both in key states, but also just nationwide, do you believe there are voters out there who are not showing up in the polls?
I think there's voters that aren't showing up in the polls. So again, I'm not sure that accounts for the entire deficit in some of the places where there's deficits. But again, if I look at the trend and I see where things are going, and I say we have 75 days left. In my world, in business, building buildings, that's an eternity. But in politics, it's a long time.
I think are already formed.
I think there's a lot of people that we can win over. I think when you look at, just the stuff that's come out about the Clinton Foundation, the emails that continue to leak, when you look at just the general, haze around, Hillary Clinton and the ridiculousness of what it is. Again, I think, she's got most of the media as her number one surrogate. I mean, if a Republican had these controversies coming out, they wouldn't be able to walk down the street, let alone run for the presidency of the United States of America. Well, and those things, and more and more come out. And now another 15,000 magically appear, after she, gets the best technology in existence, the Snowden stuff, to wipe her hard drive clean. She's perpetrating fraud on the American people, and we're saying, oh, it's great. She's a wonderful person. It's actually ridiculous.
She's had
and you guys are finally starting to come out with it. But if someone else that was a conservative in her position had those same issues, it would be over and would have been over a long time ago.
The flip side of that, though, is, and again, we hear this from Republicans who are not in support of your dad, is your dad the best messenger for that anti-Clinton message? He gave more than $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. She went to his wedding.
Exactly. Exactly. She went to his wedding.
If it's pay to play, was he involved in that?
Over 50% of the people that got meetings with her while she was our chief diplomat were major donors.
But if your dad was one of those people, what does it say about him?
But he didn't ask for anything. He didn't try to have a meeting with them. She showed up to a wedding. There's a big difference. But when foreign governments say they can't get a meeting, all of a sudden they write a multi-million-dollar check and they're in the State Department. That's disgusting, Anderson. We're selling, our children's future to these people who haphazardly donate to a foundation, by the way, and a foundation that Charity Navigator and a lot of the other big, companies that rate charities for efficiency, make sure your money's being well spent, they won't even look at it because they don't know where the money goes. It's a big farce, and everyone's finally touching on it a little bit.
But your dad, Kellyanne Conway says it does great work.
Listen, yet no one knows where it goes. Most of these companies won't even do it.
Millions of people have HIV medicine because of them.
Of course. Of the hundreds of millions of raised, I'm sure a couple of dollars have been spent the right way, and yet millions haven't. You talk about the people in Haiti who were in uprisings about the housing that was supposed to be built for them. Guess what? 2 houses, I think, were built. What was the number? Of the quote-unquote millions that they were going to do. Come on, Anderson. Okay, you and I, if we were looking at a charity to donate money to, we wouldn't be donating there, today. We wouldn't be donating now that we've shed a light on it.
Why did your dad then?
Years ago, we didn't know. We probably assumed that you did great work. Okay, now that it's been uncovered, now that she's running for a higher office, now that even the New York Times, her number one surrogate probably in the history of her campaign, he's saying, listen, maybe don't wait for the election. Maybe you have to get away from this thing right now.
And bottom line, though,
that should say something.
With 70-some days, you're confident. You feel
I feel good. I feel really good.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure, man. Good to be with you.
Should just point out for the record, Charity Watch gave the Clinton Foundation an A, said that about 80% of the money raised was actually spent on things as opposed to about 75%, which is often for many charities. Coming up, a major casualty in the fight against ISIS. One of its most senior figures, one who is thought to have led the arm of ISIS that threatens the West, has been killed. What we know coming up next.
I'm Amril Walker. This is CNN News Now. The key deputy to ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has apparently been killed in Syria. Spokesman Mohammed al-Adnani masterminded the group's media operations. Western intelligence agencies believe he also oversaw the planning of the Paris attacks. This is the most high-profile killing of an ISIS operative ever, and ISIS is vowing revenge. Apple is calling it a devastating ruling by the European Union that the tax benefits Ireland gives the company for operating there are illegal. The European Commission is demanding Apple pay Ireland more than $14 billion in back taxes dating to 2003. Apple and Ireland are vowing to appeal. And the UN High Commission on Human Rights wants authorities to immediately lift a ban on burkinis at some French beaches. It says a ban on the full-body swimwear worn by women fuels religious intolerance and does not increase security. A high court struck down the ban Friday, but it remains in effect in dozens of towns. And the Ministry of Health is reporting more cases of the Zika virus in Singapore. Officials say the virus was locally transmitted. Many of the people infected are foreign construction workers, and that is as medical workers distribute leaflets explaining the disease. That's CNN News Now. I'm Amril Walker.